So, Nissan Qashqai. This is a Plus 2 2013 model, but it's fairly similar on most. We often end up with the Clockspring needing replacing. Obviously, all of these buttons, the horn, the airbag, need to have the wires sent up through the steering column, and this is done via this Clockspring. When that goes faulty, then often the airbag light will come on. Sometimes the horn won't work. In this one, it's an airbag fault. So because we're going to be working on the electrical circuits to the airbag, it's very important to disconnect the vehicle's battery. So take the negative clamp off using a spanner. So using a 10mm spanner, you can just undo the connector here and lift off the terminal. So next step is to take out the central section here, which has got the airbag inside of it. This is done through these really awkward little holes to the side. And the idea is you put a flat screwdriver in this way and push it in. Now it's quite a difficult one. You've got to go quite a long way in. So you can just start to feel it kicking in there. Put a bit of pressure and you need to pop it off. Do the same on the other side here, and we'll get this central area off. So here we go. I've just done that. Give it a little wiggle at the base, and this will now come free. As you can see, the wires here connect through. I've actually just managed to disconnect that one. This one pops off as well. Use a little bit of a screwdriver on the edge of it to get through. And this shows you what we're trying to achieve with the screwdriver. So you're trying to come in here and pop off the clips which are holding onto these two clips here. So that is a distance of about that far, about 6 or 7 centimeters that you've got to push it in. So you need quite a long screwdriver, but you don't want to go in too far. You don't want to damage these cables either. So it's quite a tricky one. The other bit that's not always straightforward is this awkward little airbag connection right here. So this little clip, you need to lift up the black section with a screwdriver in order to get it loose. So get your screwdriver just in here, lift the black clip up, and then it should pop off like that. Now this is your section with the airbag. Put it somewhere safe. Ideally keep it upwards like that in case it did go off. So now we've got the central steering column here with the nut. Make sure this is lined up. And this is also the very important time, because I made this mistake. Check your wheel alignment is straight. So make sure you've parked with your wheels straight and that your steering wheel is in the absolute center position and that this line matches up with the V there, because this can cause you some trouble later if it's not all perfectly aligned. So we're going to take this off. It's a 90mm nut. Make sure you don't use the steering lock to work against here. You need to use your hand on the steering wheel and get it loose that way. You don't want to risk breaking the steering lock. So there we go. I'll take that away. So the steering wheel should now come loose. Sometimes it needs a bit of a wiggle. Carefully remove it, keeping that cable safe. And now we can see our Clockspring. Next step, we've got to get the housing off around it. So you've got to disconnect the clips here and here, and then there are 3 screws, one there, and one on this side here, all of which needs a Phillips screwdriver to disconnect. And then So you can disconnect this, and there we go. You can lift this bit up, you can pull this bit down. And there we go, we can see our steering column with the Clockspring. Unfortunately, this is the first time when you actually get to see the part number. So this is a 25560BT25A. Do make sure you've got good compatibility at this point. Now we've got to remove these two stalks, both of which have little clips. You can see the clip here and down here, and we pull those and it just pops off. Same on this side. Two clips, and this one doesn't come completely loose. There we go. Now the Clockspring is held by two Phillips screwdrivers here, and here. And a little clip at the back here, which you just push down. You can see it's come loose there. Bingo. Now the final little challenge is these two connectors down here. So we lift it off the steering column, and you can see the connectors at the back. There's a yellow and a grey, and then a little white one which is plugged into the disc here, which is your steering angle sensor. Now you're going to need the steering angle sensor on your new Clockspring. So at this point on, do not want this to turn at all. This must stay in the same position while you work on these last little bits. So we're going to unplug the white one, then we'll unplug the grey one, then the yellow one. I found them really tricky. I accidentally broke the clip. You need to put a bit of force inwards here with a screwdriver ideally, while trying to lever them up at the back. So there's the white one's out, the grey one's come out, and now I've just loosened the yellow one, and that's come out here. So you need to push in on the clip here to get it out, but the yellow one won't come out before the grey one. Now this is the really crucial part. A lot of people seem to end up with traction control issues after this due to messing up the steering angle sensor on the back. So keep it centered. This white bit at the top, I'm going to take this and replace it with a new Clockspring. So here we have the new Clockspring here, the old Clockspring here, with the steering angle sensor that needs to move over to this one. So this measures the angle that your steering wheel is pointing to, and if you mess it up, then it's going to cause you some big trouble. So what you need to do is make sure you don't rotate it and that you put it back onto this one, but you've got to get the little lugs that are there and there into the right position on these two. And actually these Clocksprings seem to come in two variants with different size plastic rings here that obviously fit different types of steering angle sensor. So that's why it's important to make sure you've got the right one. Ideally, you would have found this out before you bought it. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of getting the wrong one the first time. So I'm going to undo 3 little tiny screws, 1, 2, 3, swap it straight over to this one without turning it at all. Obviously on the new one they tend to come with this plastic clip which helps to stop you from accidentally turning it, but the old one obviously you don't have that help. Keep that plastic clip on until the end to reduce the chance of messing it up any further. So there we go, we've got the new Clockspring with the steering angle sensor swapped over using these really tiny screws. You need a pretty small screwdriver. Do not let it turn when you do that, and then make sure that the tiny little lugs are properly seated in the plastic ring, because if you don't, then your steering angle sensor won't work right and you'll end up with an ABS fault. So this goes back on. Take this back into the clip. Actually, do these first. Do the little wires first. So there we go. We got the yellow first, then the grey, so the opposite order, of course. Then the white steering angle sensor attachment, and then gently pop that back on the steering column. Clip it at the back, and do the 2 screws to hold it in place. Now you just clip these straight back in. It's all designed to go together much easier. Then it comes apart. This one goes on this side. You'll probably have messed them up a little bit by doing this, so try to just make sure you haven't done any major changes. Now you've got to get the housing back together. And my tip would be, don't do up the screws on the housing until you're sure it's all working well for you, because you might need to do it all again, like I have. So we'll leave the screws for now. Pop the funny little plastic ring back over here. Should just clip in. And now, final steps. Steering wheel back. And this is where you need to take out the plastic protector, which unclips. Now don't squash your airbag wire. Make sure you feed this through the gap, like that, and then put your nut back on your steering column. And then that needs to be really well torqued, ideally with a torque wrench, but otherwise just make sure it's really, really tight, because you don't want to have your steering wheel slipping on your column. There we go. So now we get back our airbag here. Again, very easy. Puts the yellow airbag wire at the back, and then the grey and the white. So there we go, we've got the airbag wire, the grey connector and the white connector all properly seated, and then we're going to push this all the way back into place. Here are the little clips that we go back onto these. And then finally reconnect your battery. So here we are, we've started it up. As you can see, we've still got the airbag warning light flashing. Hopefully that's the stored code. Just a little tip I noticed, if you've got one with the camera system, you can actually have a little look, and these yellow lines here will move with your steering wheel to just make sure you've got your steering angle sensor properly connected there. So that's a quick little useful trick. So we come here to our OBD2 reader, and we need the supplemental restraint system, read fault code, so your driver airbag module. Let's clear him. And there we have it. Finally, no more airbag warning light. Sorted. These are 2 Clocksprings. This is the one that's just come out. This is the other one that I bought but didn't fit. So as you can see on this side of things, they look pretty identical. They've got the same connectors. You've got an 8-pin and a 3-pin connector, then with a single airbag wire. So all looks completely normal until you get to the final part, turning them over, fitting the steering angle sensor, and you've actually got two different rings on these two different variants. So this is a 50mm ring, which is on the Qashqai. This one is a 40mm one, which the online checking tool I use thought would work, but obviously that's not going to fit your steering angle sensor. So ideally it is worth checking your OEM part number, which is on the sticker here, but annoyingly you can't see that without doing a lot of disassembling, so it's not easy. And also just a quick little note on centering your clock spring: make sure it's in the middle. So these will turn about 2.5 times in each direction before hitting a stop. So 1, 2, that's in the center now. So we should be able to go 2 more in this direction. And hits a stop, a bit more than 2.5 that way. So this is what it's doing, of course. It's passing the wiring down from this end through the middle, through a ribbon cable, and out the far side here via this connector. So a very clever little bit of kit, but that's why it eventually breaks.